Hi, I'm Carrie Penny, and on this episode of Secret Heart Broadcasting, I'm speaking with Susan Wismer, poet, wise woman, world traveler, mother, grandmother. She's turning 74 and has just published her first book of poetry. If you are interested in a conversation about courage and forgiveness and learning to be who you are meant to be in the world, then this episode is for you. So, how did this happen? It's one thing to write in your journal and write poetry and know yourself and, have a little secret practice or think maybe someday someone will find this. Or it's quite another thing to create an entire collection and edit it and put it out there for publication. A publisher has to want to publish this. And it's so honest, right?
Tries to be, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much a 10-year project. So I think one of the things I really looked for, my last journey with paid employment was as a university professor teaching environmental studies, and there were many things about that I really loved. And I also had the opportunity to work in Indonesia, which I really loved. But when my mother became seriously ill, I knew I wanted to really attend to her in the last couple of years of her life. And so that prompted me to do some early retirement planning. And at that point, I began to have some time to write, to really try to learn how to write poems in the way I wanted to. And it was is a slow and terrible process. The first poetry retreat I went to with Lorna Crozier, I walked in and there was this circle of people sitting in the room in the lodge where you've been. And I was really certain that they would look at me and go, "You, out," without even knowing who I was.
That's exactly the expectation I had.
And, one of the wonderful things about working with Lorna, I don't know if Lorna would like this, but, you can bring her terrible stuff. You really can. And I did, and I do. And she is able to be very constructive about letting you know that really there's one good line in there and it could use some editing, which I have she's been a wonderful poetry teacher for me. And she really, lots of other people have been very instrumental in me learning to write poetry, but she really was at and is at the core of it for many years. Those annual retreats at Wintergreen in the years when I was still working for paid employment, because I eased myself up gradually, just meant the world to me. A week to write. Oh.
Yeah, what a gift. What a gift to be able to give yourself, yes. You mentioned caring for your mom as she was finishing living. And, I share that experience. It was, next to having my daughter, maybe the most, it was the crucible for me, 100%. And I still find myself, I felt in a way completely unprepared to do this work in helping my mother exit in a way that was true for her and being her fierce advocate, because I don't know if you had the same experience, but we live in a world where older women are, at best unseen, at best. And coming out of that, I'm still grappling with what I learned, because now 100%, I am the elder, right? I'm on the edge of the buffalo jump. I'm the next line, as my friend Jen says.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And I'm, it kind of blows me away because it went really fast, for one thing. And also, I'm still processing what I learned. Is there any wisdom in that? And I don't even know what the question is, Susan, but you walked through that with your mom. What did you learn? And yeah.
I learned a lot about forgiveness. And compassion and kindness. With both my parents, as I watched them fail and then finally die, and for both of them, it was a long and, in my mom's case in particular, very painful process. She had very advanced osteoarthritis. She was one of those people, pick up a teacup and your bones break. She had very difficult last probably 6 years of her life, very difficult. And oh, there's a poem about it in my work, in my book. There was like almost nothing I could. I was there. I wanted to be there for her, and I could not fix it. There was nothing I could do. Nothing I could do. And so a lot of the forgiveness part was forgiveness for myself. Just to have compassion for my mom and my dad. It was different, but similar in some ways. Have lots of compassion for them, be as kind as I could, and forgive myself for all the things that were not possible or that I didn't understand, didn't know. If I had to go through my mother's death again, I'm sure I would do it differently. But I did the best I could at the time, and I feel grateful because I think she knew that. Most of the time she knew it. But, yeah, one of the most steepest learning curves I've ever been through in my life was accompanying first my dad and then my mom through death. And each process was very different. With my mom, it was just, that constant feeling of, I can never be enough here. I can never do for her what I want to do. And yet I'm all that I have. So here I am.
Yeah, that is really resonant. That idea of forgiveness, not just for our elders, but for ourselves in the moment.
Even now, I ask my mother forgiveness every day. She's been dead like 14 years. I was so clueless. I mean, I did the best I could, but like, I just didn't understand. And I certainly am coming to understand now, now that I live with a certain amount of pain, now that I, watch my body changing on a daily basis and learn how to live with those changes. All of a sudden I understand, mom, I used to say, just get in the car, go down to the ocean. You love it. Just go for a little walk, mom. Just do it. Just do it. And she'd be like, oh dear, I'm too tired. I'd be like, Mom, I'll put you in the car. I
Now
was
you're just being
clueless.
lazy.
I was clueless. I had no idea what
Yeah.
her life was like. And I think she understood. I think she understood that I meant well.
Hmm. And now being that model, I mean, I do want to have you read that poem. So let's not forget that.
Mm.
But I'm just thinking, you've got your children and now you have grandchildren. So now with that knowledge of what you learned from your own mom's ending, you can, like, I mean, it's just the knowledge transfer at this time of aging is there's such potential for richness right now.
That's right. That's why I wrote that book, Hag Dances. I mean, I just really wanted, and part of it was, this is what I'm writing about, but really wanted to reclaim um, aging as a really honorable and respectful process that has lots of joy and celebration in it, and lots of challenge, lots of difficulty, but it's all something to be respected. It's all something to be honored, and as you've already acknowledged, to find a way to live that and to put that out in the world, that's a bit of a turnaround in terms of conventional mainstream thinking. So, yeah, it's a big one for me, a really big one.
Do you want to read something from Hag Dances? You mentioned the poem that you were speaking about your mom and kind of that feeling of I'm bringing all I can be. We hadn't talked about a specific poem, but I would love if you would read from something
Oh,
from
well,
Hag Dances.
sure. Let me see.
And
I
and
could.
while you're finding something, I'll say Susan's book, we're recording this in the fall of 2025. Susan will be on a book tour for a poetry book, which, by the way, is highly unusual in Canada, the country we live in. So you might be able to catch her live on tour. And if not, you can certainly order the book. I think it's Bay Press. Is that
At
who?
Bay Press in
At
Winnipeg.
Bay Press, yes.
Yeah.
So Hag Dances by Susan Wismer. And now she's going to read us something.
Well, I'm going to read, I think, a very short poem. And it's not that one about my mom that's called A Daughter's Palinode, although I can go back to that if you want me to. But this is one, it's one of the shortest poems in the book, and I think one of the most profound for me personally. And it's called Simplicity. A vast tenderness lies here, beyond forgiveness. In this generous and frightening wilderness, I live, embraced for this short time, my human body on this earth, a simple offering.
And this is why I love poetry, right? Rich, dense, powerful. I could read that 3 or 4 times and sit
Yeah,
with
I
whatever
think,
energy that's
you
coming
know,
out. That's the power of words, right? The intention, like it's so important to be intentional with our words. I realize that as I get older, not to waste them. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, please tell your friends.